So often we talk about endurance, enduring the unpleasantly arisen feeling, enduring the pleasantly arisen feeling. So how would you practically do that? Or rather, let's start at this. How would failing to endure, how would that manifest? Failing to endure unpleasantly arisen feeling. Say something bothers you, and you fail to endure it. How do you know you failed to endure it? What is it that qualifies failure of enduring it?
And non-mindfulness of it, not recollecting. I mean, you won't know that you're failing because you're not even aware.
Exactly.
That
So
you're
what
failing.
is actually that you would know you're failing? What is then? What would qualify it?
When you're doing something to distract yourself.
So when you're doing something, so when acting out of it. So when you acted out of it, when you acted out of anger or acted out of lust,
you can review.
Yeah. So although the action
what
might
you've
not
done.
have necessarily even been like sufficient to break the precepts, nevertheless, you know for yourself, and if you look, you will find out, even if you ignored it, that you acted out of it. You chose to act out of lust or out of aversion or out of distraction. So that's how you know you failed to endure it. So then, what do you do in order to endure it?
Just endure it.
You don't act out of it.
Whatever's, you can't change that.
So and the reason why I'm going this way, it's because you might think, so I must be mindful of it. No, mindfulness will come out of it by not acting out of it. But it's really acting or not acting out of it. That's why sila comes first. It's always the same order. So by not acting out of discomfort that somebody upset you or something, you know you're enduring it. Now sure, you're enduring not acting physically. Now you endure not acting verbally, not even saying something on account of it. You become skilled in that, developed in that, you'll be able to endure mentally as well, not having certain thoughts on account of that same experience. And means, at any point throughout that proper enduring by not acting out of it, you are mindful. You are forcing yourself to be mindful by not acting out of things. The only way to not act out of things is to not lose the sight of them, not forget. So by prioritizing the not acting out of these things, you are cultivating mindfulness.
You're saying, so guarding that gateway.
Well, exactly, that brings us to that next point. So you recognize, it's mind choosing to act out of lust. That's how you accept lust. Not by having lust arisen. It's mind choosing to act out of ill will, how you accept ill will. Again, not by its arisen on its own. So that's the gateway. That's the doorway through which these things have to arrive, and I let them in. I open the door by acting out. I invite them in.
So it's your choice.
And it's your choice to open the door and act out of it. That's what I mean. That's what you don't necessarily have to worry about, I must be mindful every second of this. No, I must be mindful, peripherally. I mustn't lose the sight of what I'm about to do. I don't need to keep this is what I'm feeling, this is what I'm feeling, this is what I'm feeling, this is what I'm feeling.
So you need to recognize that it's your choice for lust to increase.
Yeah, it's your choice basically to, as I said, to open the door. It's the simile we gave before, like somebody comes at your doorstep and kind of tries to pressure you to let them in. But you are the one. It's your choice to open the door or leave it closed. And sometimes people can't bear that pressure. Well, often. You start by not even being able to bear that pressure. So then you open the door to chase them away. But then you just, you open the door. That's all they want you to. They don't care if you open the door to let them in or chase them away. They want you to open the door because they'll find a way in if you open the door. So often people think, I must get rid of this. So they open the door and engage with the lust or ill will. And that's why they become involved with it. So they chose to open it. So you don't want to open the door. And that's that endurance we talk about. It's there pressuring you, you're not acting out of it, and you're not trying to get rid of it. If there's the unpleasant pressure, don't try to get rid of it. If there is pleasant pressure towards pleasure, don't welcome it, don't go towards it. So remain unengaged with it. Keep the door closed, the gateway. Guard it. Guard the gateway. You don't need to be policing. what is arising for you and what pressures you, what hindrance is present currently, all you need to do is stay at the gateway, because that's where these things will become a problem. And again, that's why the wisdom word is like knowing where the problem is. It's a necessary basis for any wisdom to arise. So the problem is not in that I heard something that upset me. The problem is not in that I seen something that made my mind lustful. No, the problem is that when those things do arise, I have no concept where the gateway is, where the problem is, and I am automatically engaged or automatically repelled. And I'm acting out of repulsion or acting out of lust towards it. I cannot not act. And the reason why you cannot not act is because you don't know where the gateway is.
You never tried.
And you don't know where the gateway is, because you just kept acting out of it. And kept either trying to get rid of it or dismissing it as a problem.
The option of the middle way.
Is not seen.
Then option needs to be seen, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what I'm describing
And
is
then
basically
do that.
exactly that. Middle way becomes an option for you. You can still choose to act out or not, but now you see that the choice is on you. And that's already a choice in itself that you become aware of. So by abstaining from opening door for lust to welcome it, or by abstaining from opening door for aversion to go and get rid of it, you are choosing the middle way. Through choosing to not act out of these things, you are choosing the middle way, and you start to see it. So that's why you guard your mind correctly, and you go above the 5 hindrances. Anything that bothers you, whether it's sensual nature, ill will, restlessness, doubt, sluggishness, confusion. Neither of those things are a problem in themselves by arising. They're a problem in me being under them, affected by them, involved with them, and you're always involved through the same gateway of you choosing to open the door and act out of it. So, bearing the 5 hindrances correctly, enduring them correctly, the mind will rise above them. Not preventing them from arising.
The 5 door knockers.
Exactly.
They
The five unwelcome visitors. But that's, you want to understand that, as I said, it's not in themselves that they hinder you. They become hindrance, and for that you are responsible. So things that hinder you cease to be the hindrance, but they don't necessarily disappear themselves. So how do you then practically not act out of these things? What do you do? How can you help that not acting out of hindrances, out of unpleasant things?
What we just said, not to recognize them and not act out of them.
So, but what if you acted out of it?
What if you have?
Yeah, you forgot, you got careless.
Then just recollect yourself. Basically.
How? Then what?
You can't undo what you've just done. So you have to just.
So what exactly do you need to recollect? Just, I made a mistake, I'll try again. I'll do better next time, or what? What do you want to recollect?
Whatever's there now. So if I've acted out of lust, then I recognize that. I see that I wasn't very clear with what I was doing.
So how did that lack of clarity come about then? So how can you prevent? So lack of clarity was then the basis for you acting out. So what can you do? What can you see here and now that will pertain to that, helping that lack of clarity?
Whatever I'm feeling.
So you're feeling remorse.
Yeah.
So how can that help you not lose clarity in regard to the future lust, non-arisen lust? You're remorseful now. It can actually help you, but how? What is it that you have to see in regard to the remorse that will then help you in regard to future unarisen lust that will arise? It's not the decisions and determinations you make on account of being remorseful for something bad you've done. That's an indirect way. What is a direct thing that if you see in regard to your remorse on account of mistakes you made, they will there and then uproot the basis of those mistakes in the future if you sustain it.
Yeah, my non-resistance to that displeasure.
And how do we call that non-resistance to displeasure of remorse in this case? The gateway.
Mm-hmm.
So the gateway that you lost the sight of in regard to lust or ill will or whatever you acted out of is the same gateway now in regard to the displeasure of remorse. And if you're still not seeing it, means none of your determinations of I'll never do this again will be actually rooted in anything substantial. There could be like circumstantial determinations because it made you feel bad. But if you actually see that, oh, now I'm also ignoring the gateway through which this remorse pressures me, by not ignoring the gateway, by clarifying the seeing of the gateway of your responsibility in regard to it, you know that I don't need to worry about what specific lust or annoyance will arise in the future. All I need to worry about is not losing the sight of this gateway here and now. And that's why you don't need to rekindle the old lust to prove to yourself that you are beyond lust. No, all of these things can only enter through a gateway. All you need to do is see a gateway on account of a hindrance, and you deal with all the hindrances.
But you see, you know that you went down that path of lust because you lost sight of the gateway in the first place. So that's when you recognize. So I recognize the gateway. I recognize the cure. You
support the recognition of the gateway not by making determination that never in the future you will lose the sight of the gateway, but by actually practically not losing the sight of the gateway there and then while you're remorseful thinking about it.
Yeah.
Present here and now, to be visible here and now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not something that I'll do tomorrow.
Well, exactly, because that's always the implication. Everybody, it has to be. You start wrongly, and then you start basically being less and less wrong, so to speak.
So I made the mistake because of a problem that's always present.
Exactly. So ignoring of the gateway, it's not something going to be done in the future or something that has been done in the past. Whenever it was done, it was relevant because it was done presently. Yeah. And that's why it's a gateway. Doesn't matter when. Like that which didn't come through the gateway, lust or aversion, doesn't matter where it is, unless it's at the gateway. So that's the whole point. The simile of the town, like with big walls around, with only one way in or out, and the wise man recognizes that. So he doesn't have to go and chase people that cause lust or people that cause ill will, and police them. All he needs to do, I just need to stay at the gateway and not let them in, and there will be no trouble in the town. When they are not at the gateway entering the town, I don't care where they are and what they do and when they turn up. All I care is protecting the gateway. And that gateway is not a random chance. It's not a mistake. It's not a momentary slip of mindfulness. It's always intentional choice to open it. Right. Hence, literally, the entire Dhamma boils down to one instruction that the Buddha gave often to numerous monks and nuns. Whatever you know it's wholesome, do it. Whenever you know it's rooted in unwholesome, don't do it. Not like pray that it will come your way or something. No, do it or don't do it. It's a matter of choice. So if you cultivate the right choices sufficiently enough, you'll get to understand and uproot the nature of lust, aversion, delusion and distraction. You get to fully discern the gateway and be unable to lose the sight of it. That's why Arahant is always mindful. Not because he's always, I'm at the gateway. No, it's because he fully, proficiently developed himself in regard to he cannot not see it anymore. He cannot even ignore it anymore. Because it's impossible to ignore. Like, even when you think you're ignoring things, you're only ignoring pretty much the responsibility for your choices. But you wouldn't be able to make choices even in a state of half awareness that most people live in. They're choices. You're still aware of them. So that whole delusion and ignoring and unawareness, it's not this mystical non-existence or some mystery that you don't know. It's you actively ignoring part of the picture, ignoring your responsibility for opening the gate, ignoring your responsibility for letting people in or trying to chase them out, either way opening the door. But either way, you cannot ignore it for as long as you're alive. Because that's what being alive is. Being conscious. being aware. So when people say, I'll come back to the present moment, you have no choice about it. You are in the present moment whether you want or not. But what you should do is stop ignoring responsibility for the present moment. Stop ignoring that fundamentally it's your choice that has all these various symptoms later on arising and bothering you. Choice of lust, choice of ill will, choice of ignoring responsibility, delusion. Choice of oblivion, choice of carelessness. And as we began this talk, none of these things would manifest unless you acted out of them and unless you keep acting out of them by body, speech and mind. So protect the behavior of your body, of your speech and your mind. And the Buddha said if the skillful monk practices like this, he's gonna, he will restrain his behavior, he will restrain his speech, then he's gonna have still like thoughts of cruelty, coarse sensuality arise for him. But if he sustains his practice, these thoughts will diminish. Then he's gonna have subtler thoughts, like subtler annoyances, thoughts of his clan, country, reputation, kind of broader, subtler things. Then that will subside. And then he's just going to have thoughts of purity of Dhamma. Like things as they are, literally. Like in seen, just the seen, in heard, just the heard, in thought, just the thought. So no more corruption, no more confusion about the gateway. But again, that doesn't happen magically. He clearly understood what not to be done, and then he kept a watchful eye peripherally on things that are about to be done, and then didn't do them if they're unwholesome. If they're wholesome, kept an eye on them and allowed them to be done. But not just physically, but verbally and mentally. That's why often the Buddha would, give all those instructions about the speech and careless speech and malicious speech, and even if it's not coarsely bad speech, pointless speech. Are you just chit-chatting for whatever reason? Means you are now choosing to maintain the kind of, because you cannot engage in a careless chit-chat verbally without that implying a certain obliviousness on the level of your mind. A certain careless, pointless choice of a distraction. So, and that's where you want to arrive ultimately. The clarity of your thoughts in regard to present enduring pressure of any hindrance. Whether it's sensuality, ill will, restlessness, doubt, remorse, sluggishness, doesn't matter. It's rooted in the mind. But you will not see that for as long as you physically immediately act out of it. For as long as you verbally act out of it. But if you don't, you get to see that, look, I'm cultivating such and such thoughts when this hindrance is present. I am choosing. Literally, I am choosing when these things are present. I make a choice for these thoughts to start to move. So what if I just choose not to do that? Not like I choose to get rid of this, because you can't, so you endure it, but I choose to not entertain such and such thoughts. And then you sustain the choice, for which recognition of that thing enduring there is still necessary. It's implicit. So you cannot not be mindful with such practice.
No, that's the meditation. That's
samadhi. Yeah.
That's the meditation.
Yeah, being able to sustain it, to compose it the right way and sustain it, maintain it in the being, bhavana.
A samadhi of patience, patient endurance.
Well, yeah, it's one of the factors. If you practice patience rightly, you will develop samadhi. Patience in regard to right things, not patience in regard to enduring ants biting me. Well, why? What's the reason for it? But yeah, enduring the pressure of the certain choices that you know are unwholesome, and you don't do throughout the day, from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed. And we said that before. A useful practice would be at the end of the day, not as a sort of mantra or something, just sit down and see, have there been instances during the day where you actually acted out of things that should have not been acted out, when you acted out of lust, ill will. And if you remember, yes, I said such and such thing in the morning, it was careless. Don't go through this psychotherapy motions of I will ask for forgiveness and stuff. I mean, you do it, whatever, but it's pointless. But what you want to do that it's not pointless is recognize there and then, rediscern the gateway because of which you've done such a thing in the morning. That's the way to deal with it.
remember your responsibility.
Remember your responsibility. Yeah, so I'll never do that again. I don't know if I'm going to do it again or not. But how do I do it whenever I do it? By losing the sight of the gateway. This gateway that now I'm losing the sight of because I'm so obsessed with this remorse and making determination that I will never make this mistake again. And yet you're doing it right there and then, ignoring the gateway.
Yeah.
And that's it.